All right. So I am here with Rhett or Mankind. And he has been a prolific crypto art artist in the space for some time. I first noticed you back in 2020, November, when you did your first drop at Nifty Gateway. And then was following along kind of your journeys with the different collaborations that you're doing with like Please and Thank You. And so really happy to have this chance to get to know you. And thank you for coming to this interview.
Appreciate it. No, look forward to it.
Awesome. Awesome. And my first question, of course, is it okay to record this interview?
Yep, that's fine.
Awesome. Okay. So I am here. My first, I start off kind of all these interviews with the first question, which is what makes NFTs and crypto art cool? Like what makes it exciting for you?
For me, it still is as exciting as it was when I first discovered it, pretty much. And for me, it was just the simple, basic idea of digital ownership, that we could now have a consensus, an agreement that this is the authentic, rare piece of a digital thing that we agree that this is the owner of. And because before that, a decade ago, I've been doing digital art for 20 years. I've been around computers for a long time, and we haven't had that in my whole lifetime. Digital things, digital art, digital anything has always been just an infinitely copyable commodity that has not had any value of ownership at all, and only had ownership in what someone can do with it, the utility, like, can it sell my shampoo? Can it help my film get, more, tickets in the box office? The sort of utility of what art can do for somebody else. But now just that simple idea or technology shift of this person is the authentic owner of something was groundbreaking for me. And I got it straight away when I started looking into it and trying to understand it. But that is the excitement of what that unlocks. And I'm pretty much a minimalist at home in my physical sort of sense, but I became a fairly big collector in this space because of all the sentiment around things. And I just was able to support other artists that I have admired for years and years. And I could support them in a way that I could never support them before, and feel that I had a piece of ownership over something they've created, and I've given back to them in a way that I haven't been able to ever do in the past. So like that, the whole sort of shift in, the creative world has made a huge difference to me. And I've seen it have a huge difference to many other creatives as well. So that is what excites me about this space.
So the possibilities that digital ownership unlocks for new creators, I totally agree. I think when we start expanding those possibilities, it allows for people to go outside of their normal like way of creative thinking, right? And try to think like, okay, what else can I do? I think that's great.
It definitely makes you question a lot of things when you sort of wrapping your head around it. And even once you get it, it unlocks your mind, like, what can I do now with this new sort of space or new direction that's opened up? Because like this is, I had a pretty successful career as a creative director and artist in branding and studios. And I sort of thought my career was coming to an end. Like I really thought like I'm sort of winding down. This is the best that I could achieve. I've sort of reached the top of sort of advertising studios or, doing concept art for, sort of film. And I was a music video director for a while as well. I'd explored all these avenues and I thought that's it. And when I discovered this, it sort of was like a dream I never knew that I could dream for when I was a kid, because it just wasn't possible. Like it wasn't a thing. I was never going to be a traditional painter. Not that I couldn't draw or anything like that. It's just that I love digital.
Yeah.
I love the experimentation and the exploration of this space is always innovating and pushing forward and thinking of new things. Like this is where I like, and we've just not been able to, sell that at all as apart from, maybe for someone else, as like a music video or the backdrop of an event, or but we now the focus can be on the appreciation can be on the artists themselves rather than being just a footnote or a small credit at the end of something bigger. And I just thought that was groundbreaking.
Oh yeah, you said it very well. And I want to probably start with that idea of you've had a very successful career in advertising, creative directing. How did you then discover crypto art? Like, what was your journey into this space?
Yeah, well, I've been a crypto guy since 2013.
Okay.
I've been into Bitcoin
Mm.
before even Ethereum was around.
Mhm.
And like I said, I've been a digital artist for over 20 years. So when I saw the term crypto art popping up on my Instagram feed and some tags with it, I was like, what is this? And I started investigating, and straight away I put the two and two together. And I'm like, yeah, this is it. This is me. And it took me a while. I didn't want to jump straight in. With any new technology, I wanted to really understand it. I took about 9 months, I think, studying the space before I minted my first work. So,
Wow, okay.
I think like a card game, it's called Gods Unchained, was probably my
Oh,
first
yeah.
thing that I minted. Actually, I created a card from that game. It was an NFT, and I had it in my wallet.
Mhm.
But I didn't publish my own work until I think like February 2020, something like that. So I took a good 9 months to a year to have a look at the space and really understand it, try lots of things before I actually dove in
Mhm.
feet first for myself.
What were you playing Gods Unchained at all?
Yeah, I was for quite a while. Yeah.
What can you just give me kind of like a real quick what is Gods Unchained?
Sure. Gods Unchained is a digital version of like a trading card game where you've got two sides. It's like a playing card game where I don't know if people are familiar with Hearthstone or trying to think of other, maybe even
Kind of like Magic?
yeah, sort of like Magic, where you play cards, you have energy, or you have it's their versions of all these things where you've got your deck of cards, you play them in order to beat the other player on the other side of the board, and you accumulate points, and it's sort of fun, and with the combinations of cards that you can put together, you can outplay or outwit another card player to win that game, and then you rank up levels on the leaderboard, and carry on. You can then accumulate more powerful cards, or you can accumulate a deck of your choice, which is more customized to the way you like to play, whether it's aggressive or strategic, or so it's a sort of strategy card game that's quite addictive and quite fun to play. And
are you still playing right now?
No, I stopped playing a while ago. Because there's just too much to explore in this space, and I was like, I can't. I was fairly okay at it, but I didn't want to become a full-time Gods Unchained player. I wanted to explore the art side.
Are some of those cards worth more now than they were back then?
Oh yeah, some of them are worth quite a lot now, especially the early Genesis cards. I haven't sold any of the cards I got. I don't have like hugely valuable ones, but just for sentiment's sake, I just have them. I know that I was, just as a memory, I was there early when things were happening. But I do have to say, cutting myself down for being early, I wasn't early enough to Ethereum in general. I was a Bitcoin maximalist for far too long. And I looked at, I saw Ethereum at $1, and I just thought this might be just a fad. And the things that they were building on it, I saw crypto kitties, and because I wasn't interested in sort of cartoon cats, it just passed me by, and I was like, I'm not going to look further into it. And that was a mistake that I had to overcome a few years later. So fortunately, I was able to get over my ego, thinking Bitcoin was the only most important thing in town, and that there is space for a lot of innovation.
That's like, I want to dive into that. Actually, I want to dive into a couple of things now. First, with the Gods Unchained, before we get to the transition from your Bitcoin journey to opening up into the more blockchain innovation, when you look at the Gods Unchained community, like that kind of gaming, like, NFT gaming community versus the crypto art community, do you see, like, what are the similarities? What are the differences that you see?
It is quite different, and people are drawn for different reasons, of course. And I think that's kind of the beauty. I just see all the differences we have in the physical world, and all the desires and the likes and the little sort of pockets of audiences that exist also will, and they're starting to exist in the crypto space. And so there isn't a lot, the people who often are like the fine artist collectors, they're not really into the game side at all. And the gamers, at the moment, we're going through a sort of period of, there's quite a lot of anti-NFT video gamers who are traditional video gamers, and they went through the microtransaction sort of dramas, and they sort of hated all that, and they just see this as an extension of that. So we're going through a lot of anti-NFT sort of sentiment at the moment, but there are a lot of video gamers who have come over, and they see the benefit, and they see it's not a huge sector at the moment. Like, video games are massive, so it's only a drop in the ocean compared to that sector. But there are a few decent games, and there are a few very playable games. And when you get the feeling that you own that asset, rather than it being stuck in a centralized place, even though you can't at the moment use it in many places outside of the game, its utility is mostly within the game. Just the fact that it is possible that you can sell it to someone, whoever you like, and transfer that into crypto, and then transfer the crypto into cash, like, it's just a pathway that's not available in most centralized games. So true. It opens up possibilities and differences of ways of playing, that, and some people, like, they might be there for the gameplay, but other people might just be there for the trading. Like, if they're if they have a trading mentality, you can do it with Pokemon cards, you can do it with Magic cards, you can just collect cards, get them graded for decent quality, then on-sell them to someone who appreciates them more for a profit. And then some people are here just for that type of game. And that's a little sort of a game within itself, to be able to trade your way up to, decent cards or assets or crypto. So, I've learned not to judge people on how they want to do their crypto journey, because everyone is different. And I think those differences should be celebrated in this space, and not sort of put down because you're not into it. There is space for everyone in here. And I played the game for a while. I enjoyed it. I played Axie Infinity for a while. I didn't enjoy it as much, but it's an okay game. But there are a lot of people making a living out of just playing that game, and being able to play to earn, and not like in a competitive tournament arena or streaming or whatever, just basically playing the game
Yeah.
and being able to earn crypto is a novel concept right now as well. So just exploring that is interesting, and how that would work in the future.
Definitely. No, I like the way that you frame how, you know, I like what you just said about like not judging people's crypto journey, and allowing everyone to kind of follow their path and celebrate how they come into the space and what they do. And so I want to go back to this point that you made earlier, where you were saying that at one time you were a Bitcoin maximalist, and then, you know, you transferred, or not transferred, you change your mindset, I would say, probably, in opening up to Ethereum and maybe perhaps other blockchains as well. Can you tell me, walk me through that journey, like from not so much as in like, walk me from the point where you had that like, oh, wait a second, like there's more than Bitcoin.
So I still like Bitcoin. I still, see its value, and I'm totally into it. And I thought, because of its fundamentals, that it would be the king, and it would stay the king. So having that mindset made me disregard some of the smaller players that were entering. And at that time, Ethereum was a smaller player. It was an experiment. It was small. It was trying to do something different. And I was looking at it, but I thought it was just a novelty. Because I thought Bitcoin was the all-powerful, it had everything right. Like it did everything the right way, and it was strong. It was only when a couple of years later, when I saw the hashtag crypto art popping up, when I was like, this is interesting to me. Like, that's why I say I never discount someone's entry or journey, because the cartoon cats weren't interesting to me. So I didn't pique my interest. I didn't want to enter for any reason. But when I saw crypto art, like, I was into art. I was into digital art. I was into all the people doing all different kinds of art on Instagram. And I'm following all these people. So I'm like, this is interesting. So that was what changed my mindset, because I found sort of what I felt like was my people. I found people doing art and who were into crypto, experimenting on the blockchain. And I had something to offer as well. So I could feel like I was part of a movement, and I could do something that was different to what so many other people were doing. So that was where I changed my mind. And I was like, no, this is, and it didn't take long after jumping in and making that decision of researching that I was like, this is actually fun. Like and I was like, it's such a simple thing, but I was like, that's a huge thing. And this is why Ethereum will be really important, because with Bitcoin, the most I could do was watch a chart every day or check the price. It's a good store of value, but it's not fun. When you come to Ethereum, it can also be a store of value, but you can build so much on it. You can build whatever someone desires and is interested in or thinks about. And that is like, it changes everything. And then not only do you have the underlying sort of blockchain, but now you've got all these people doing interesting projects and making interesting art or terrible art, and you're watching all sort of drama play out sort of every day in this world. And that doesn't happen with Bitcoin. It's like, it's sort of boring compared to everything else that's happening in crypto.
Gotcha. No, I mean, like you highlighted some really interesting points there. And I think this idea of belonging, right? Like you're like, I felt like I was belonging to something larger than myself. I think that's been kind of like a resounding answer. Not everyone says the exact same words, but everyone kind of alludes to this idea of, there's now stories to be told, versus just kind of like one story that was being told before, which like crypto was just like, look at the charts. But now it's like it's opened up this world where it's fun to talk about NFTs and art and the stories behind it versus just like, oh, did you see the what's happening on CoinGecko yesterday, right? Like that's not super exciting. So when you were making that transition, and since you've been digital artist for quite a while in crypto since 2013, would you say that your local community, the one that like, you're at a local bar or, you're out at a coffee shop or something, is your local community in Australia very privy to crypto, or like, is it supporting or not? Or did you have to like go off into the internet and find your community that way?
Yeah. So when I started crypto art, I
Mhm.
didn't know anyone else that was doing it. I barely knew
Oh,
other people that even knew about crypto,
yeah.
even though I'd been into it for years. So when I did crypto art, I really had to search. There's become a small community now, but a couple of years ago, I was only able to seek out one person, which is Giant Swan,
Mhm.
in the country who you've interviewed.
Yeah.
He was the only person. Sorry, I'm just going to put on some air conditioning.
Yeah. No worries.
It's getting
Game's
quite
okay.
hot here. So yeah, Giant Swan was the only other person local to me that I found was doing this. And then subsequently, I've met a couple of others,
Mhm.
Nate Hill, and there's Maddie, who's DCL blogger, who's not an artist, but he's quite prominent in the space.
Yeah.
So there's a few of us who, yeah, we're quite early, but it's not many. It's like, a handful of people. So the tribe that you sort of seek out and build or play around with is really all digital. It's like online. Um, Clubhouse played a big part of it as well early on. There was a time when there was no Clubhouse, but I was still doing crypto art. But then Clubhouse came on the scene,
Mhm.
and it was around the time NFTs were peaking as well. And it was just such a buzz in those rooms of everyone learning about what NFT was at the same time.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I had a head start. So I became sort of one of these people who was advising
Yeah.
like people who were coming in the rooms. And it was surreal. Like I would be in rooms talking to artists, getting them up to speed on how it all works, what it is. And then we'd have like Paris Hilton drop into the room. And then we'd have like MC Hammer drop into the room. And then we'd have all these like celebrities sort of come in one by one, like going, so what's this? And then, I'd be in a room and I would be next to Snoop Dogg, who was listening, just learning about it. And I'd be like, what is going on? Like
Yeah.
it was a small period of time where these clubhouses were just really going off.
Mhm.
Everyone was trying to learn about this new technology.
Yeah.
So it was surreal. So the community has been online. It always has been. Yeah.
Nice. And so since you've been in this space now for quite some time, and you are, you're now able to kind of pick and choose which kind of projects and what you want to do as like you're more experienced. What I guess now looking back a little bit, besides like going from Bitcoin maximalist to opening up to more possibilities, what else have you learned about yourself as an artist since you've started minting your artworks?
One of the things I have learned as an artist is that the value of my work or my output does not equal the price that my art sells for. They're two separate things. So it's and it's also separate from my self-worth. So and I say this to sort of new artists as well, because it can be frustrating if the early things you see before entering the space are $1 million sales.
Yeah.
And if you're judging yourself and
Yeah.
your work and you're like, why is my work not worth what people are selling for? And you don't understand the difference.
Mm.
That, yeah, it doesn't mean that your work is not valuable. It
Mhm.
just means you haven't found your collector yet.
Mm.
You haven't found someone who, and often I have a lot of the time with lots of other artists, there's people who love their work, but they
Mm.
don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean your work is not valuable or not loved or not appreciated. Previously, there was no money to attach to this digital artwork, and people would be like posting up their work and you get a like. And
Yeah.
the only validation you would get is from having lots of likes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people would be asking, why aren't people liking my work? And you get that
Mm.
anxiety from social media.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing, you know, sort of judging yourself or your worth based on likes. And it's the same here. You shouldn't judge or base the value of the output of the work that you're doing based purely on the amount of dollar signs you can get on a piece of work. So, you know, there's lots of pieces of work I would love to own, but I'm not rich enough, and a lot of the times, I struggle to value other people's work as well, because I'm like, what I think their work is worth, I don't have that amount of crypto or money to bid that much on their work. And I think it would be an insult to bid less. So sometimes I don't even bother bidding on someone's work because I don't want to insult them with what I think it's worth. And so it's a funny relationship between how we value things and how we don't. So that's something I've learned to separate the value of what I bring is not based purely on how much a collector is willing to spend on my work. You know, I do plenty of other work. I have a YouTube channel, and I do those YouTube education videos about NFTs for free. You know, I don't, you know, I'm not selling them as NFTs. I'm not, and I know the value that those bring is immense. Just because, you know, they're free, it doesn't make them not valuable. It just means, you know, and also I think don't judge yourself on that, but also the value that those collectors bring to me personally allows me to continue making art and videos the way I would like to make it. So it sort of frees me up to do the work I would like to do, as opposed to being instructed by a client and them having the last say on what they think a work should be for whatever purposes. So you know, that's another thing, going back to what excites me about this space, is like, I always wondered, like, what if, and it can almost happen, what if artists had the money to make their decisions on what they want to exist, rather than companies and capitalists and entrepreneurs? Like, you know, not that entrepreneurs can't be creative, but I'm like, what if it wasn't them with all the money making the decisions? What if the artists themselves had the money? What would they spend it on? So I'm still interested to see, like, what do they spend it on? What are they going to spend it on? These new multi-million-dollar artists, you know, what are they making now? What are they experimenting on, and what are they spending it on?
No, I think that's a great question. I found that too in the beginning, right? It was a lot of the artists within the crypto art scene just buying and collecting from each other, right? Versus, you know, traditional collectors coming in and like buying the work and then, you know, bringing it to their collector community, or taking it and reselling it on another platform, right? Or another market. And so, like as you said before just now, it's very interesting to think how the power shift is. I mean, it's very small right now, but how the power shift is like slowly favoring the artists more so, because it seems within the communities, artists are supporting other artists in a way that has not been like technologically available to people because NFTs didn't exist. Crypto wasn't as easy to enter, right? The barrier of entry, it's still pretty difficult, but the barrier of entry has been reduced. and being able to open that up to more people who are creating, but then also the creators also become the collectors. This is something that we actually started off at NUMOMO. We had this idea of the 3 C's, right? In order for someone to be successful within the Web3 environment, you know, they should be a creator, right? Either creating art or creating some sort of content. A collector, right? Collecting art as in like buying NFTs, or collecting art and reposting. And then a critic, right? The critic part, I think, is still elusive in this space, although I see it more and more, where the critic part is kind of giving meaning to like what is happening. And so kind of following along of that line of thinking, where as if like we put on our critic lens and look at what the crypto art scene has blossomed into, and then within NFT, right? If NFT is here, you have art, gaming, you know, maybe DeFi, some other stuff. And then within art itself, right, you have digital art, right? There's like 3D art, illustration, you know, you go like digital fine art. When you meet new people, or like when you're talking to people who are genuinely interested about what's happening, and they're like, what is crypto art? Like, how do you explain crypto art to other people?
So initially, I think crypto art was just a novel term for anyone who was posting things on the blockchain. Before NFTs really took off and were in mainstream headlines, that's sort of what it was. It often involved lots of symbolism around the blockchains. It might have a Bitcoin spinning logo or Ethereum sort of diamond somewhere in it, but didn't always have to, because it was novel enough and sort of small enough. Anyone who was publishing things onto the blockchain was sort of doing crypto art. They sort of morphed and changed when more just generic digital artists came onto the scene. So I sort of think it's now sort of changed slightly into people, artists who are using the medium of crypto within their artwork, rather either just acknowledging it or using the programming technology on the blockchain itself as a medium to interweave into their art in some way.
Okay.
So that rather than just being like a photo that's linked to a blockchain,
Yeah,
you know, that could be an NFT. But I think now, previously it was sort of, you could have done that, and if you were early enough, you'd just be a crypto artist. But now I think people who are integrating the ideas of blockchain and cryptocurrency in general into their artwork, I would call them a crypto artist rather than just an artist who made an NFT.
Gotcha. No, that's a great explanation. I like that. It's something that is often asked to us too, like what's the difference between a crypto artist and an NFT artist, right? And so what you just said, like using the technology to explore some sort of new creative way to produce something where there is reference to the blockchain, or there's like you're using the smart contract in kind of like a new novel way. Definitely seems to be one of the big differences between like artists who are doing crypto art versus an artist who, as you just said, like just goes to OpenSea or some other NFT platform and tokenizes a JPEG, right?
Yeah. In the future, I think hopefully we're just digital artists. Like it's just, you know, people are doing digital work. We're all artists in some way, or a designer, or however you want to phrase it for yourself. But just in the same way, when the internet was new, like if you were a designer on the internet, you were like a web designer. We don't really have web designers anymore, because like if you're doing any digital, it sort of is going on the internet. It's like it is, you know, we don't need to have, you're not an internet artist, you know, you're just an artist and the internet exists. So just like blockchain and NFTs exist, I think in the future we'll just be digital artists, or just be artists again. Definitely. But at the moment it's new enough that people who don't know about it need a label to it to sort of differentiate what we're doing.
Definitely. Okay, so talking about your journey as an artist and crypto artist, I want to show some of your work. So I have
Cool.
I have a lot of your sites loaded up, and is it okay if I share my screen to show your
Yeah.
different sites?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So I'll start with my first experience with Mankind. Again, at the time, I saw what you were doing, and this was back in November, right, last 2020. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about the Lost Dancer. This entire series I thought was really just at the time, like, very just new, right? Like I myself was just getting into the space, just learning about the difference between, like, again, crypto art, NFTs, what NFTs were, kind of seeing the transition from like a lot of the Behance digital artists, not many Behance digital artists, but knowing that there was a lot of animators that were just on Behance and what was the other one? Deviant Art, right? Like, but then seeing more artists coming into Nifty Gateway, like that was kind of one of my first onboarding experiences as well. And so just talking a little bit about the Lost Dancer, can you talk a little bit about the creation process, what was going on when you were creating this collection?
Yeah, sure. So the collection in general, so the Open Window and Lost Dancer were two that had done quite well on Instagram previously. So when I knew I had my a release coming up, they gave me a date. Then I just looked at my insights and I was like, okay, what have people, what's proven already to be desired and shareable and interesting. So those were the two that had the most views. I'd been doing sort of motion design experiments on my Instagram for a long time. I go through periods where I do everyday artworks, and I do it for a year, and then I take a break or I do something else for a year, and I come back to doing experiments. So yeah, this was one of those. And then the other one I did at Window Light was a new one I hadn't released online yet anywhere. So it was new, but they all seemed to be part of a set and a series that seemed to make sense, sort of different lighting in a room, sort of unusual, unexpected figures. So, and also a looping animation. So the reason why I chose animation is because it is uniquely digital. You can't compare it to other things where people say, like, why not just do a painting, or why not, just the difference is that it's clearly has never been a way to own an animation. It's never been a collectible asset before for people. So that's why I wanted to do an animation. And then I just chose some popular ones. And these have just been my experiments over the years of creating something. This is a little bit eerie, but something of interest. And you're wondering, is it real? Is it not real? What's going on? But it's creating a mood. And a lot of the times in my work, I have sort of a duality of moods. It's like the light. I'm looking at the difference between the light and the shade. The highs and the lows. The colorful bright day, and then the dark shady night. I'm looking at the difference of the two and putting them together. So here you've got like a nice, light, elegant, ritzy type of room, but then you have this dark, shadowy figure, but it's also sort of dancing and it's ghostly. So it's like, you're creating that duality of emotion in the image. That loops around. Yeah.
So this image too, this is fully animated, right?
Yeah, the whole scene is all 3D.
Okay, because so when I first saw this, I was like, like, is that a green screen? Is that guy like a guy with a mocap suit on? Like, and then he's like going in and animating. So that was one of my questions while I was looking at your first collection, was because the movement is just like incredibly lifelike. Like it, like in my mind, it could be some guy wearing a big green mocap suit doing that.
Yeah, a lot of it is based on motion capture and draping fabric over top of it. I do have a motion capture suit here. I haven't used it as much as I would like to, because my mind is sometimes all over the places in projects I'm doing. But yeah, these are all based on sort of human sort of motion capture, but then putting totally unrealistic or ghostly or unexpected sort of scenarios on top of that.
No, I think that's great. And then I want to move over to your super rare account. So I believe it was, is it Gratitude, the one that you did with Please and Thank You, right?
Yeah, that would be that one.
Yeah. We had we did a collab with him actually, and one of our first artists that we worked with, Engwin, back in early 2020. And so yeah, just talk a little bit about the collab. Like, I guess as a digital artist in this space, and then once you kind of entered in, found like your tribe, found people to work with, like, yeah, like can you talk to me a little bit about like how this collab came to be, and like what was your experience with it?
Yeah, so once again, this was an experiment. I come from a bit of a music video director background, so I've done several music videos in the past.
Yeah.
So when I came across Please and Thank You in this space, it was really, I was interested, like, how can we reinvent this and it not just be, a music video for your song that you're trying to release?
Yeah.
How can this be a true artistic collaboration? And on top of that, it was like a revelation as well at the time to me that digital artists have the potential of being the new rock stars, which no one had even envisaged that in the past. But I was like, you can be. And even now when we're looking at this piece, the music's not playing. When you go to an art gallery, and it's fine, I'm not asking you to play it, but it was just something I realized when we looking at these things on Nifty Gateway or on our computer, or we go to a physical space and we watch it, the audio is somewhat secondary to the visual.
Yeah.
And I was, taking notice of that as well. So what I proposed is that we have a 2-part piece. So there's a version for Please and Thank You, and a version of Mankind. I think it even says, like Gratitude Block. That was the name of it. But this is the Mankind edition on the left-hand side, the title of it.
Yeah.
And there's also a Please and Thank You edition. There's a different audio. They're clearly themed. The sort of motion is the same, but the background and the scenery is slightly different. So they're sort of sister pieces that they can live separately, but it's meant to be just a looping, meditative type of visual that went along with the soundtrack that he had created, which is quite serene and reflective, and just to sort of create an environment type piece. And I would be happy, and at the time, and I still do this, I imagine it either large in a frame or on a wall or something, and I try and think, can I live with this immersively? Like if it was in a gallery or in someone's home, could I live with this? Because a lot of the time in the past with motion graphics that I would do, you're doing quick edits and you're fighting for someone's attention. And here I wanted to look almost opposite to that and say, how can we go and make something someone could live with? And it still be sort of engaging and interesting, but they don't it's not jarring. They don't have to turn it off after 5 seconds, so that was what I was exploring here.
Oh, okay. All right. No, that's great. Like, yeah, when this came out too, I was like, that's actually really, yeah, like I thought that was one of the most interesting collaborations when you guys did that, yeah, about a year ago, right? Because like there was two pieces that were very similar, but obviously that had a place on their own, right? But the connection together was quite powerful. So yeah, I really like that piece from you. And then as you're using Nifty Gateway, Super Rare, and then we're gonna bring up your Maker's Place as well. Which platform? Sorry, let me rephrase. When you're uploading to the different platforms, are you also, your mindset, is it like looking at each platform differently as well? Or is it more just like, well, today I want to upload something to Super Rare?
Yeah, I have noticed different artists take a different approach to it. So, and there is no wrong or right way, because we're all just sort of, the new platforms are all just learning. So I treated Nifty Gateway as a place where I would have multiple editions. And to be more affordable and have multiple editions, so I could get more out there. Super Rare was the rare one of ones.
Yeah.
And often I would put there's some static, but I'm trying to have more video or animated pieces on there, as opposed to Maker's Place, where once again it was one of ones, but they're more static. They're all just static pieces. Maker's Place is a bit of a mishmash at the moment. I'll be honest. There's no clear theme, and I guess it's where I put things where I don't know where they belong.
Well, I mean, so that could be a theme, right?
Yeah.
Within what you do. So you said February 2020 was when you were first uploading. Was that on Super Rare? Like what was your journey?
I think it looks like a strawberry skull.
Right, this one.
Yep,
here.
that one. Yeah, if you click on it, let's see if it's February, or it should have a date somewhere on it.
Oh yeah, 2 years ago.
Does it have the actual month?
Let's see. Yeah, February 27th, 2020.
Oh, there we go. Cool. Yeah, February 2020.
This is the power of the blockchain.
Yeah, exactly. I can check my own stats. And that's special. That was one of the special moments to me, because one, it taught me like what it feels like to upload for the first time, or to mint something and have it forever immutable on the blockchain.
Yeah.
Two, it taught me about how a collector can be more important than the price that's on something. So I was, at the time when I sold this, I was doing it, people say, it's all about the money or whatever. Like back at this time, there was no hype. There was no money. I think I sold this for around $100. And at the time, at the time, Ether was only $200.
Yeah.
And I sold it for half an ETH. So it was like $100 I made. So I wasn't doing it for the money. I was doing it for the education and the trial. And Matt Kane is a really well-known crypto artist in his own right. And to be able to be recognized by him, even at that time, I was like, oh, I can now reach out to him and create like a relationship and ask him questions. And I still do to this day. And that relationship of being not only validated that someone was willing to collect it and think it was worth collecting, but also to be able to reach out to him as another artist and say, what do you think of this? Or what are you up to? Or where do I go to if I want to do this type of thing? That has proved way more valuable than the selling price of that initial piece. Yeah.
No, I mean, like I'm looking at your collector base is quite. I mean, they're the heavy hitters of crypto art collecting. I mean, you got Colburn, Mocha, you have Max Stealth, right? Like,
Yeah, and that's something early on.
Illustrator tried to do one here.
Yeah, he still hasn't got one of my pieces. But fortunately, he DMs. He was like, one day I'll get one. I'm quite stubborn on super rare.
Yeah.
I set maybe I'm too stubborn, but I've set this precedence. I say I won't upload a new piece to super rare until the previous one is sold, and it has been quite a while since I uploaded this last one. And I don't, and it's hard. I don't do any promotion really around it. I just sort of put it up, and whatever happens, happens. And I have my other sort of outlets. I can do other things and push them. So I don't need to push it. But I really like this piece, but it hasn't sold for a long time, and that's okay. And I'll just have to live with it. And sometimes they sit there for a long time, and you think, oh, no one's going to ever be interested. But then something happens, and it sells, or it even generates something else. So even from the little story with the previous piece that Illustrator didn't get, he was in a small bidding war, and it was at his nighttime when the reserve price was going to end.
Yeah.
And he wanted to get it, but his alarm went off an hour late. Like he got the time zone wrong, and he woke up and it was sold already, and it was like, oh, why didn't you like DM me and say it was about to sell, because you saw I bid? Like, you could have interrupted me, and because I was like, oh, I didn't want to I'm not trying to push you to buy. I just want to it to be an honest and sincere bidding process. I'm not gonna. He was like, it's okay, you can DM me, you can tell me, I missed out on it now. So I feel, not that he had like guilt about it or anything, but I feel that just that interaction between us and previous ones that we've had, around that time, Bored Ape Yacht Club was coming out. And I can't remember if it was before or after it, maybe a little bit after. And I was trying to mint like 8 Bored Apes at the time. And I was having a lot of trouble, and I failed 2 times, and it took all my gas, and I'd lost hundreds of dollars. It was like $500 of gas I lost at the time, and that was a lot, for me at the time. So I was venting on Twitter, and I just said, I'm out. I can't do it anymore. Like, I can't spend any more. I'd like to mint some. I'd like to have one, but I can't waste my gas money anymore. So after that, Illustrator saw that, and he reached out and he said, let me gift you one. Go and pick one of the ones, because he said I was able to get a whole heap. Go and pick one. And I still have that one to this day. So
that's special.
Even though he hasn't been a collector yet, he gifted me something which I could sell now for more than any of my things have ever sold for. So it's amazing.
No, that's cool. And I mean, like, looking at this piece, this is a very Illustrator type piece. So I know why he would like it. So actually, I mean, the coincidence here is that we did interview Illustrator for our first book. So we interviewed Coldy, Carlos, Hacktow, and Mr. Misang, and then we interviewed the collectors, Illustrator, Korean collector, and and one more. And so when just talking to him about like what he likes to collect and like why he collects, I can definitely see why now he wants this particular piece in general. All right, so as as you've again grown your tribe, as you have transitioned your YouTube from a lot of tutorials to now more NFT related content, and like obviously you have your Instagram, your kind of Web 2 outlets. What characteristics have you found within like kind of crypto Twitter, right? Because that's where everyone kind of the community lives. What characteristics have you found that makes crypto art special, that makes the community special?
What stands out to me with this crypto art community is that we're we feel like we're all on this journey together and we're pioneering something. We're still in this phase. Like early on, when there's only a few, it was definitely more of a trudge and lonely sort of endeavor. But as people come on, it does feel like what I imagine the Renaissance felt like, when they just had an awakening of techniques and art at that time. I sort of feel that togetherness of sort of innovating new things, that we're all trying new things, but we're all innovating together, and we're all helping each other at the same time. Whether we're failing or not, failing or succeeding, we're still learning, we're still progressing, and we're still moving forward this whole space, which is new, and we each have different visions for. And it's interesting to watch that play out. I'm old enough to have been around when the internet was sort of burgeoning and coming up, and it does remind me of that time when before the term blog even existed, people were trying these things like news portals. And I had my own. I had we just called them like design news portals at the time. You would just post news, and I was interviewing different artists in the space, and everyone was just creating their website from scratch, because there was no such thing as WordPress, or there was no tools to do anything. It sort of feels like now, like everyone's still building the tools, which we'll take for granted in 10 years. But at that time, the web didn't have anything. If you didn't know HTML, you couldn't build anything, So, my wife and myself, we sat down at that time, we built a website, and we called it Heavy Backpack. And I would post up news of what was happening in the web design world. And that was like a new space. And I feel that type of camaraderie between us all here, where there's people doing podcasts, yourself doing books. I'm making content of my own artwork, but I'm also doing a YouTube channel trying to spread the word and help people enter the space. So I really feel that's a difference with us. That it feels really progressive. And I like being part of sort of progressive groups who are thinking and trying new things.
Definitely. No, I feel like that aligns with what we're exploring as well, as just this idea of innovation and pushing pushing this, I guess, collective idea that there's a better way of adding value to a community. There's a better way of moving forward than what is presently the current solution. Being, NFTs, crypto, being part of this, but also having this ability to transcend borders, right? And find like those true fans, right? Find your true community, your tribe, that supports your creative visions, but also supports a collective mindset of like, we're in this together. Like it's not just money go up, right? It's more like
that's just the beauty of digital in general. Like that's what we've all come to acknowledge now with the internet, is that it opens up possibilities to sort of make bridges to other communities, and we can find our people more easily, or find our interests. And we've just taken that for granted now with the internet. And all those benefits of digital are now with the blockchain, and we bring all those other benefits with us. So like if I was to just try and be a traditional artist, I'm limited to how many people I can get into my gallery space for an opening. and what is that? Maybe limited to 20 people if it's a small room and you're just starting out, and it's whoever's local. You know, what are the odds that you'll be able to find a collector in that small subset of group? But now open it up to the entire world, you know, get a small following, and it doesn't take that much. You it's a possibility you can find your people that you can, you know, either create with, or your collectors who want to be part of your journey or support you. So
definitely,
you know, there's huge benefits in it for creators.
Definitely. So, you know, as you, like, you've taken me through your journey, I do want to ask, within your artworks now, like which artwork of yours like kind of best represents how you feel about the crypto art movement? Like
would probably be one from my Scarce Abundance collection. It's on Nifty Gateway. It's the one you just were on. So in this one, I did 100 one-of-one forests. And they're all different, but obviously all part of a theme. They weren't, it's sort of semi-generative. So I would, you know, curate with my own eye what I was creating. But I set up a system within the software where I could generate random forests and random textures. And then it felt like, for me, I was exploring and discovering this new world for myself as well. Like if I was, you know, an explorer discovering a new land, I felt this was like the digital equivalent of that. I was exploring and discovering something that I've never seen before, somewhere I would like to show people. And then I would curate from that, and I'd create the artworks. And over a period of several months, I came up with 100 of them to offer as a collection. So it would probably be one of these colorful forests that I've created from this collection, which probably sums up how I feel, paralleling what we're going through. Sort of, we're all discovering and exploring new and exciting places that we couldn't imagine before. And that's the sort of process I wanted to create for myself, making these pieces.
I mean, that's a hell of an explanation. Like I like that's great. Like you know, I now understand what what this means. Like, we're a reflection of our environment, our environment's a reflection of us. And so as we are exploring, what do you think is the next phase for your art within the crypto art movement?
Well, I think I've got a Nifty Gateway release in about a week, actually.
Oh, okay.
And so and similar to this one, I sort of draw on what I'm going through, what we're all going through in the space, and I sort of look at that, and I'm thinking of like transitions, how we're all transitioning from the physical to the digital, and what we go through to make that transition, what we grow through. So I've got a collection where it's there's one part that's based on like body parts, and they're sort of got holes in them or breaking apart, so they're going through. I haven't released these. Oh, actually, they were on my Instagram. I put them up there.
These.
So they're sort of, you know.
Ascend transitions. Okay.
Yeah, so they're based on sort of body parts or people, but they're going through a transformation into the digital realm, and they have to go through a process. So I feel like we're all transitioning at the moment, and we're all sort of thinking of what change does this mean? What are we becoming? What does this change? We're in this flux transition period of time. And simultaneously to this, I've got like a, and I can mention it to you because the book's not coming out until this project will be done. But you've got an inside scoop which no one really knows yet.
Ooh,
but
right.
I'm a secret artist on a project which is there's a game like you mentioned before, so you know it, Magic the Gathering. So I know someone who owned a Black Lotus, the most desired rare card in Magic.
Okay.
It's like one of the rarest, most valuable cards you can get in a pack of Magic cards.
Yeah.
He just recently, just yesterday or the day before, he destroyed it. He on purpose, he destroyed it. He's got a live cam footage of it.
Yeah.
He destroyed it in order to sacrifice it to start something new, to create what he's saying is like the memory or the shards of the Black Lotus.
Oh, wow.
So what we've created is a generative Lotus creation,
Yeah.
which I've done. And so it's looking at how we are moving and how we transition once again from physical to the digital. And, what do we value? And so he's got a lot of hate recently for doing that, because people like, obviously give the card to me, like don't destroy it. Like it has real world value. But then there's other people like investing in the speculation of what, and people don't know I'm the artist or what the art will be or what the NFT will be. Hopefully they'll be pleasantly surprised when they see it. But it's a generative art based on landscapes, and there's a Black Lotus in different forms.
Oh, wow.
And you'll see that in the future. But
Awesome.
so at the moment, I feel like a lot of us are going through this transitional stage. Like we only thought physical things had real value. And now we're looking at how can something digital have value, or why does it have value? And so we're looking at those changes. So that's reflected in what I'm releasing at the moment.
No, that's awesome. And that idea of transitioning from our physical to digital and like questioning what is the value of a physical like thing, right? Physical asset compared to a digital asset, which is very similar to where Korea art community is at the moment. Korea's art community is still very traditional. It's very like, our traditional paintings, and then you go to an exhibition opening, and then kind of like the deals kind of all happen behind closed doors. So, or just for a select group of individuals. And when NFT art started, or when artists started creating NFTs, like the collector base here in Korea still didn't, and actually still doesn't really understand how to value. They know how to value like the NFT gaming collectibles, right? Gaming assets, but how to value like the art NFTs is still something of a like a mystery. Like we still get asked like why are you buying this artwork? Like what does it all mean? Like, their one reference is of course Beeple, because I think that's like the world's reference. But beyond that, it's kind of like, how do artists who are digitally native, which Korea has just a ton of artists that are digitally native, how do they enter into a space where the collector base is natively analog, right? Like natively physical. And then like, how do basically the gallerists who are, I wouldn't say suffering, but there's been setbacks because of COVID, right? How do they educate their collector base into this new idea of NFTs? Because we get a lot of galleries asking us like, I have a bunch of artists, and then we tried the OpenSea thing, but our artworks aren't selling. Can you help us? Because it's the collector base, and not just them, but many people still value that physical thing that you can smell, see, taste, touch, right? And like wrapping your head around this idea of like digital value, right? Digital wealth, digital value seems foreign to them, although like they'll pay $10 for emojis, right? Like that, that they use on the messaging app. It's a weird weird time that we're living in, where through hopefully this type of like content, through books, through hearing other people talk about it, and talk about like their journey, talk about the value that they've found not only for themselves but for their community at large, will help people who read the book kind of understand like where to start mentally thinking about like what is valuable digitally versus what is valuable physically, and like why do we emotionally connect with these digital things versus physical things. I think that's partly what we're trying to explore with this book, and hoping other people get this kind of knowledge from artists like yourselves. So I think it's quite amazing now, like to hear you talk, because I have watched a few of your YouTube videos when last year, right, when you're talking about the different crypto art scenes, and so like having you be also a voice for this space is really exciting, because it, you know, we found that Korea is about, you know, if we're looking at timelines, they're like where everyone else was, like where you were back in 2020, like February 2020, like even before, like that's in the timeline. That's kind of where the artists and collector base here in Korea is at, although it's accelerating much faster just because the world is starting to open up more. It's not going to take 2 years for them to like kind of catch on. But with that said, again, we want to make sure that there's alternatives to just how to buy and sell NFTs, right? Because those books exist now, and we're looking more at like the knowledge and education aspect of how to like approach your Web3 digital identity, how to approach finding your true fans versus you know, having the, you know, million follower type Web2 model, right? Just kind of collecting and extracting all that value. So yeah, really just thanks for sharing. Like I feel I now have a better understanding of your work, which helps me just understand you a little bit more as well. And so I'm really glad that like you know, emailed us back and remembered about this.
I appreciate chatting to you about it. Like, yeah, I like talking about the art side as well as the technology. And a lot of the time, yeah, people just care about the dollar signs. So like, yeah. And I liked what you said about the critique side as well, because there is that lack at the moment. So it'd be great if you could add to that, you know, that gap that we've got. And I would like to add to it myself and do more videos about critiquing artwork, and that I'm just so busy trying to do the work itself as well, and doing content that there's not that room left for the critiquing.
No, of course, like I guess so. Kind of final question would be like, for new artists or collectors entering into the space, what kind of advice would you give them on kind of where to start, how to start, I should say?
So first, you want to go to some sort of content place which gets you in the basics. So you want to understand and feel comfortable that you understand the basics of blockchain, because if you're dealing with NFTs, you know, the T part is token, so it is on a blockchain. So you understand what the foundations are of this space. So you understand a little bit about blockchain first. And then, so once you get those, let's say you've got those foundations, you've spent a couple of weeks reading up about how this all started and built. Then I would say, look at what you're interested in, like the people you admire, what they're doing in the space, and do your research on them, because then you'll have the interest and you'll catch on better of why it matters to you and those group of people. Because I remember when I came into this space, like I said, the crypto art, the art side of it got me interested, the design, the creative, the innovation. I was already into crypto before.
Mhm.
So, but when I mentioned this to my brother and my family, they had no interest whatsoever.
Oh,
They,
really?
had
Wow.
no appreciation of art.
Yeah.
Like, say my brother in particular, no appreciation of art, couldn't care less about crypto.
Yeah.
But then when I told him, I said, there's this thing called NBA Top Shots where you can
Ah.
when you collect a slam dunk from LeBron James,
Yeah.
maybe check that out. Then he was like, oh, let me have a look. And then
Yeah.
he started getting into it. So I realized that's how I hooked him. I got
Yeah.
his interest, I got his
Ah,
love of
okay.
basketball,
Yeah.
and that's why he cared. And that's why I've found that so many people who didn't care about crypto before, they didn't have a need to care about crypto. They felt okay in their own financial, regulations and
Yeah.
situations or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, they're getting introduced to crypto via NFTs
Mm,
because they're caring about the culture. They're
yeah.
caring about what their tribe or community cares about.
Yeah.
So they're learning about crypto from that.
Mm,
And vice versa. I've also found people who are just crypto people who haven't really cared about NFTs or art or culture or anything of. They're getting introduced, and I've had people like they've been asking me, why is art important? Like, what? Why should I care about
yeah.
this? Why is it selling? And people don't understand why it's selling for so much.
Yeah.
And they've been crypto people for such a long time, and they're used to getting like 100x returns from
Yeah.
crypto coins,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
can't understand why a JPEG is selling for so much. So
Mm,
I've seen it come from both sides, and it's been really interesting. So sometimes to financial people, crypto people, I'm explaining the art side.
yeah.
I'm explaining culture and why these things matter to
Yeah.
people. And on the other side, people who understand art or culture or what sport or whatever they're into,
Mhm.
I'm explaining to them why crypto matters and
Ooh,
why you have to collect this with crypto because it's on the blockchain, and that gives you your scarcity and your ownability and all that. So
yeah.
it's an education on both sides, and we're all coming together and moving this all forward digitally. And it's great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, like, yeah, thank you for sharing. I do want to share with you, like, how are you on time? Like, I want to be conscious of your time. Um,
Yeah, no, I'm okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
about
no,
like
I was
10.
thinking as well, like it has been a while since I've done like this interview style thing, and
Mm.
I feel like I've enjoyed it. It's gone it's gone pretty well. I'm
Thank you,
happy.
thank you.
And I wouldn't mind getting a copy. I don't know, after the book comes out or whenever
Oh
you're
yeah, for
comfortable,
sure.
like getting a copy of the video if you're recording, and maybe I can post it on my YouTube
Yeah,
channel
yeah.
at some
Yeah.
time in the future.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah, no, I'll share everything with you. And then you'll have access to use the content as well, right?
Sweet.
We're very, yeah, we're trying to embrace all of Web3. So the interviews and content that we create, we'll tell everyone like, yeah, I mean, post away. Like, so yeah, no worries there. I'll share everything with you, of course. And
All good.
then, so I ask about your future because
Mhm.
here in Korea, what we're also exploring is the offline immersive art experience. We believe that this is the future for at least where we want to be position ourselves within kind of this crypto art Web3 movement. We know everyone, not everyone, many people are going metaverse online, staying online, but there's still an inherent value of going to an offline location and experiencing the art in person versus just
Yep.
behind my computer. And so we're working with this museum called Arte Museum. They have 3 different museums in Korea, one in Jeju, one in Yeosu, one in Gangneung. And these museums are part of District. District is a creative art studio, probably one of the top art studios here in Korea. And they do this kind of immersive art experiences, public art displays. They have the wave here. They did the waterfall in New York Times Square last summer, and then they do other, media art and installation type works around the world. And so in these museums, they have usually 10 rooms in each museum. Each room is, they have the waterfall room, the infinity room, right? They have like the flower room, right? What they're, of course, we've been working with them to prepare them to enter into Web3, start selling NFTs, but more so building that community around what they're offering for what we think is the future of how to display crypto art, like how to display basically digital art itself, right? Not limited to essentially frames, but open it up to the possibilities of rooms, of full immersive experiences. And so,
love it.
Yeah,
Looks great. Love the idea.
Yeah. Thank you. And so, our next project, and I know you're super busy, so there's just like, yeah. So, our next project is going to be in the summer and then in the fall. So, summer and fall, we're preparing to open up a museum in Seoul. And this museum is going to be called Arte Meta, and it's going to be focused solely on interactive NFT and crypto art experiences. In particular, we have this experience called the live sketchbook room. And so what it is basically people will come, they will color in a drawing, and then they'll scan it, and then it becomes part of the digital art wall. And the art wall itself, it animates the drawing. So it's like bringing your animation to life. I can actually show you here.
Yeah.
I've
seen. I think I've experienced. Yeah, that's done really well.
Yeah, and so
you've even put a 3D sort of feel to it, and it's textured it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so like because so right now we're working with the guild to make this happen in May, and then in August/September we're opening up a 5-room Arte Meta museum. And again, in this museum, there's going to be different stations. What we're building out is, what we're planning are either collaborations and art exhibitions with current artists in the space. And so wanting to ask you if this is something of interest for a future project that you would be interested in doing and being involved in. Yeah.
It like I said, it looks great. I'd love to be involved in some way if I can manage it.
Okay.
And it's just working out the details, but the idea, the concept, the direction, love the idea.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, we're pretty excited. The idea here is to basically make Seoul what we think is going to be the center of Asian crypto art. If you think of like China, Japan, Korea, right? Like Seoul itself culturally, Korea culturally is, it's at its maybe it's at its peak. Who knows? We believe that it can still go further. But this idea where we're exploring this synthetic reality, right? Like the blending of digital and physical, exploring like what is possible in terms of like interactive art as well. And so having this is like the kind of phase 1, and then we'll explore more. The idea here is to find groups of artists and or have artists themselves create their own kind of teams, and then we offer rooms, and in that room then the art collective can create some sort of like their own kind of experience, and then pair that with kind of like an NFT conference, or like everyone's doing like NFT Seoul or NFT New York or NFT Melbourne, right? Like NFT Seoul, right? Is the idea for later, just to like give a spotlight to not only the new artists and new technology, but also with the people that the interviews that we've been doing are mostly, again, all the artists that we're creating between 2017, 2020, make sure that their voices aren't lost to kind of like this mass wave of people coming in. Because we do feel like that is part of the crypto art movement itself, right? Like this idea of collaboration, this idea of community, this idea of exploration and innovation, and trying to find like a maybe not a better path, but at least an alternative path for how you want to build your art career, how you want to build around your community and your brand. So
yeah, if I can manage it, I'd love to see my artwork, in a physical space like that. That would be cool.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll of course keep in touch with you through email, let you know on our progress, give you some ideas about different projects and timelines, and then we can work out the details later, of course, and then go from there. But yeah, no, it's exciting, man, that you want to, or at least you're interested in this. So thank you.
Yeah, no, well, I haven't had much to do with Korea in the past, so I'd love an opportunity to sort of reach out to there. And even if it's a physical space, it might give me a good reason to travel and to see my work somewhere like that. Yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome, cool. All right, well then yeah, so I'll tell you next steps here. Next step is I'll send you an email, and after I'll send you an email just kind of wrapping up our interview, and then as I transcribe this, I run this program through Otter. So I'll run our audio through Otter, transcribe it, extract the 10 questions. The book itself is going to be organized where it's like we have the first couple chapters written by myself, Hackatow, Maddie, and then we have the interviews, which is basically my summary of this interview, and then the 10 questions. We're asking each artist if they will give us an art piece that they want to include in the book. And then, so from that, and then after these interviews, at the end will be kind of like an analysis. We want to use this program called Atlas AI, which is like a qualitative academic research analysis program, and kind of extract the common themes and values that different artists were talking about and collectors. And then, yeah, the book itself, we hope to be published by the end of March, April, and then do some of the exhibitions set up for the summer. So that's kind of, yeah, so that's the timeline. And then anything I send to you, so I won't publish though anything until I send you all the material, and then you can review it. And then once you have it, feel free to reuse it. No worries. And then, yeah, so that's about it.
Cool. No, appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. Do you prefer Rhett or Mankind?
I don't mind either. On my Twitter, I've got both. But when referring to my artwork, I go by Mankind. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll refer to you.
Rhett is my name, so it's like the personal stuff. So yeah.
Gotcha.
Probably Mankind for the book. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll use Mankind for the book. Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I'll keep in contact.
Cool. No, really appreciate it. It's been a great chat.
Have a good day.
Cool. Thank you. See you.
Bye.
Bye.